And that is all our programmes for schools for today. Return again tomorrow morning at the same time.
This programme is the first in a series of 4 about multiracial Britain today. We've tried to make sure that the facts in these programmes are correct. For example, we believe the statistics are the best available from official sources. But of course, you can't always get matching statistics to compare like with like. And when it comes to deciding which facts to use and what to emphasise, time is limited, and programme makers are human, at least some of them. And they have views, of course, like everybody else. Well, at some points, you may wish that other views had been included, and for this reason, in the last programme, people of differing views will be invited to make their comments. There'll be a discussion of the issues raised in the series, issues such as immigration, employment, education. Well, we hope you'll see the series through so you can judge these issues better for yourself.
I think we need a firm control of immigration.
Really strict immigration control.
To control the numbers of people who are coming here to settle.
Which is far too many.
That is not a racialist response.
This country might be rather swamped by people with a different culture.
Strange people coming with strange faces, strange habits.
People get frightened.
They seem to constitute a threat.
Yes, that's what it is about, and I don't think we should hide from it.
We're a British nation with British characteristics.
They are no longer prepared to accept a rapid and indefinite expansion of ethnic minority communities from outside.
Politicians talk a lot about immigration.
And by that, of course, they generally mean black immigration.
But is it true that most immigrants to Britain come from Asia, Africa, or the West Indies? What are the facts?
Well, according to the 1971 census, there are roughly 3 million immigrants living in Britain.
They've come from all over the world.
78,000 came from Australia and New Zealand.
164,000 from Africa.
304,000 from the West Indies.
462,000 from India and Pakistan.
677,000 from Europe and the common market.
703,000, that's the biggest single group, came from Ireland.
And 594,000 came from other countries like America.
Altogether, that's just under 3 million immigrants.
So, out of a group of 50 people, only 3 will be immigrants.
And just one of them will be a black immigrant from Asia, Africa, or the West Indies.
So?
So, in fact, 2 out of 3 immigrants living in Britain are white.
So how come people think that immigrant and black mean one and the same thing?
Well, it's nice to be polite, and it's nasty to be rude. And saying what you mean sounds somehow awfully crude. So although I'm wrong statistically, don't bother me with facts. I prefer to call them immigrants when what I mean is blacks.
There are plenty of people who think that these black immigrants are pouring into Britain.
So how many are pouring in?
According to government statistics, in 1978, 187,000 people poured into Britain as immigrants.
2/3 of them were white.
In the same year, 192,000 people poured out of Britain.
So over 5,000 more people were leaving than arriving.
In fact, over the last 10 years, nearly 500,000 more people poured out of Britain than poured in.
And since 1974, the population of Britain has fallen.
Of course, it's certainly easy for some immigrants to pour in.
People from Ireland, the common market, or people with British ancestry whose parents or grandparents were originally born in Britain.
I think it's rather insane in a way, the immigration here, where I can just walk in, work, as long as I like.
I came from France, and I don't need any visa to come because it's a common market.
Well, I came in from Canada because my grandparents were born in Britain.
I came from New Zealand, and it was on the basis of a patriot passport.
I came from the south of Ireland, and there were absolutely no restrictions on entry.
For me, it was as if I had a British passport. I just walked straight through.
I don't have to apply for a visa or work permit.
We can go and come back like I please.
People had said to us, you know, you may really get a hard time depending on the state of the immigration officer's liver and a few other things. In fact, it was very, very simple.
Yes, it was quite easy.
There was no trouble at all.
No problems at all.
No, any difficulties.
And there weren't any questions at all asked.
To stamp the book and that's it.
So some people have no problem coming in.
Welcome to Great Britain, the guardian of the free, a land renowned for friendliness and hospitality. If you come over via Dover or you're landing at Heathrow, there's a welcome any time of day or night. When it comes to immigration, we have no discrimination. We don't care about your colour if it happens to be white.
But for others, it's not quite so easy.
Heathrow Airport, April 1978. Mohammed Iqbal waits for his wife and 2 children to arrive from Pakistan. He's used to waiting. So far, the Iqbal family has been waiting 9 years to come here.
Iqbal first applied for his wife to join him in 1969. And over those 9 years, he's had to submit documents, certificates, bank statements, personal letters, undergo detailed and searching interviews and investigations to convince immigration officials of one thing, that his marriage is genuine.
Well, I feel very angry, you know, and been thinking all the time, you know, God knows what's happening. I mean, you know, I am married and I got 2 kids, and why can't I bring me over here?
Iqbal's case is typical of the delays and difficulties which face any Asian immigrant who applies to bring his wife and children to join him in this country.
To gain entry, the family have to prove that they are who they say they are. But that isn't quite as simple as it sounds.
To start with, the family are checked out by officials at the British High Commission in their home country.
But just to get an interview at the High Commission will take between 1.5 years to 3 years of waiting. And that'll just be the beginning of a long journey through the land of red tape and officialdom.
When they finally get to the interview, the whole family, including children over the age of 8, will be interviewed separately and in detail to see if their answers match up.
They'll be asked about their parents, relatives, in-laws, neighbours, about the detail of the home and the village they come from. They may be asked, how many doors are there in your house? How many windows, chairs, cups, plates? How many animals? What colour? How old? Who owns them? Where'd you buy your food? Where'd you get your water from? And so on. Some of the questions you can't answer. Some of the questions have more than one right answer. Some of the interpreters speak a different dialect and translate the questions or the answers wrongly.
This lady is going to interpret for me. She's going to tell me what you say and tell you what I say.
But if your answers don't satisfy the immigration official, if they don't match up exactly with what the other members of your family say, then you may be refused entry, or your case will be delayed for months, sometimes years, while the immigration officials make up their minds.
Many cases are refused and they appeal, but 3/4 of those who appeal are refused again.
Maybe that's because a lot of the cases are bogus, so it's natural to have a high rate of refusals. Or is it?
In 1976, an organisation called the Runnymede Trust investigated 58 such cases, dismissed by immigration officials as bogus.
2 researchers flew out to Pakistan to find out the facts about each case on the spot.
They went to the applicant's home village.
They interviewed local officials.
They checked out all the documents.
And when they'd gone into each case in detail, they found...
Out of 58 cases refused entry by the immigration officials...
only 3 were false.
While the other 55 proved to be genuine.
One of the cases investigated by the Runnymede Trust was the Iqbal family. And the evidence in the report finally convinced immigration officials that Iqbal's marriage was genuine.
Now, after 9 years of waiting, the Iqbal family is reunited.
But it's not just the Iqbal family.
The Runnymede report has also forced immigration officials to change their minds in 29 other cases besides the Iqbal family.
So of the 58 families considered, immigration officials admit that half the cases they dismissed were genuine.
And the report says that nearly all the cases dismissed were genuine.
Now, even if the true picture was halfway in between, that means that 3/4 of the families currently being turned down by immigration officials are in fact genuine.
But how can the officials be so wildly out?
Many black people believe, and I must say that I believe, that these laws are basically about keeping us out. That's what it's all about, and we shouldn't kid ourselves on this. And one's experience is, and certainly my experience, both as a black man and as a lawyer, is that, in fact, the immigration rules and the Immigration Act is applied much more stringently when it comes to black people seeking to enter the United Kingdom than when it comes to white people seeking to enter the United Kingdom.
One example is the case of Mr. and Mrs. Galliara.
After 8 years living here as a British resident, Mr. Galliara brought his wife back to Britain, hoping they'd be allowed to stay together.
Immigration officials decided to send her back at once. Mrs. Galliara was 7 months pregnant at the time, and tired and anxious after the long journey, she began labour pains. Guards and officials claim they took care of her.
We stayed there for about 24 hours at the airport. We didn't have nothing, no food or nothing. It was only just small rooms we stayed there for. And they told her about 3 times, you know, that they were definitely going to send her back. And I think this is why she went into labor pain. I told the security man that, you know, this is bad, you know, you got to do something about this thing. But they didn't take any notice, and they sort of laugh and says, you know, there's nothing wrong with her. She's only 7 months pregnant, and nothing gonna happen. But in about half an hour, she, you know, sort of screaming, she was, and I told them, I told the one security man, you know, I took him in the room. I said, look, you can see by yourself that something gonna happen. Then he believes me. Then he said, I'll call the doctors now. They took her to Ashford Hospital, and the baby died after about 2 days. After all this thing happened, you know, as soon as this thing happened, they give my wife passport and say she can stay now.
Mr. and Mrs. Ruder face similar problems.
Mrs. Ruder has lived in Britain since 1966 and holds a British passport. In 1975, while on holiday in India, she met and married Mr. Ruder.
I met this boy and I liked him, and so I got married. And then I wanted him to come with me here because he's got a British passport and I've got a British passport, and I've got every rights, really. I've been here for 10 years now. I mean, so I thought it'd be easy for him to come. It won't be all this difficult. The passport says I am married. The name has changed and everything. And still they don't believe that. That's the proof they wanted. We showed them what was the proof, and still they don't believe us. It's 2 years now. It's a long time, really.
The case of Mrs. Kuza is a bit different.
Mrs. Kuza doesn't have a British passport. She comes from Sierra Leone. But her 2 children, Letitia and Benjamin, were born here and they want to stay here. When we filmed them, the Home Office was searching for Mrs. Kuza to deport her and split up the family. If they'd been successful, it would have cost the taxpayer at least £150 a week to look after the children, something that Mrs. Kuza was more than happy to do for herself.
I'm looking after them now, you see, and I wouldn't like my children to go into a home because they are not orphan. I'm alive. I mean, they are already fatherless. I don't think they should be motherless. And this is what the Home Office refused to understand.
It's not the right thing to do anyway, to break up a family. I think it would be stupid if they send our mum home and we stay here on our own, because we have no one really, only our mum.
Most children that are born is supposed to have a right to stay anyway. So why can't our mum stay with us?
I think that's what they're trying to say, really. Saying that if she goes, we have to go as well, because they know she's the only dependent we've got. So that's what they're trying to say in other words.
The Kuza family?
Mr. and Mrs. Ruder.
The Galliaras?
3 cases which show that immigration controls are applied more tightly than most people seem to think.
The control of immigration in this crowded island is one of the big questions of the moment.
Immigration control has been a key question for a long time.
And right from the start, these controls were aimed above all at black immigrants rather than at immigrants in general.
In 1961, when the black population of Britain was 336,000, the first serious talk of control started.
In that year, an extra 115,000 immigrants arrived from the West Indies and Asia.
And in 1962, the Conservatives responded with the first Commonwealth Immigration Act.
The Labour Party condemned the act as racialist.
But once in power, the Labour government itself imposed even stricter controls on immigration with their 1968 Act.
By 1971, the Tories were back in power and rewrote the law again to exclude yet more black people living in the Commonwealth from entering Britain.
Again, the Labour Party condemned the act as racialist.
But again, when they came back to power, they applied the controls just as tightly as the Tories.
So what exactly is the difference between Labour and Conservative policies on immigration?
Not very much, except in rhetoric. I think they frighten the immigrants more than we do. But in terms of their reduction in numbers, no. And they might make it 5,000 a year less. But really, if you examine what they're actually proposing to do is distinct from the great things they're saying, very little different.
It has been accepted on all sides of the House of Commons that you have got to have a very strict immigration control if you are going to remove the fear, and unless you can remove that fear, you will not promote these good race relations.
The 1971 Act cut immigration dramatically.
But it did little or nothing to improve race relations.
Raids and searches for suspected illegal immigrants shot up, and more people were detained.
One such case was Sahan Singh.
Sahan Singh had been working for 2 years in a bakery in Southall, when one day he was called up to the manager's office and questioned by immigration officials.
As he left work that evening, he was detained as a suspected illegal immigrant.
Sahan Singh ended up in Pentonville jail.
But he couldn't understand why, as his brother-in-law Amrit Gill explains.
First, he learned that he would be legal anyway after 6 months. I think the second factor that made him pretty certain that he was legal was the fact that his wife was granted entry certificate from British High Commission in Delhi. And that's a pretty certain proof that a person is legal in this country. At least, you know, that gives a person a certain kind of security, some kind of feeling that he must be legal.
Sahan Singh spent over 5 months in Pentonville jail before the immigration officials decided he could stay with his family in Britain.
His case was not unusual.
In recent years, random raids and searches of immigrants' homes and workplaces have become more and more common.
In Newcastle, for instance, in a single raid, 11 restaurants were searched and 62 people questioned in order to track down just 3 illegal immigrants who were later deported.
When is the last time that you heard of a white person being stopped in the street and asked to produce their passport just to check if they happened to come from Canada or South Africa or Australia and had overstayed their leave? When is the last time you heard of that? And yet, many black people know that it is not an infrequent experience to be checked in this way. Sometimes the raids have been on a whole series of restaurants, Bangladeshi or Indian restaurants, at the same time, in which police and immigration officers have arrived, and as far as I can see, without reason, started questioning people about their immigration status in this country, asking to see the production of their passports, checking whether they're overstayers, whether they're here legally, taking them to police stations and holding them there while further inquiries are made, and generally causing very considerable insecurity among sections of the black community that already feel very insecure.
As a result of these raids, some immigrants have been held for many months, while immigration officials decide whether or not they can stay in Britain.
The fact of the matter is that the periods of detention are A, indefinite, which gives rise to a very serious amount of distress and suffering and anxiety on the part of those people and their families, and B, are very long. At the present time, I'm dealing personally with the cases of people who've been detained in prison for over 11 months.
In 1977, 1 in 7 of those detained was finally released and allowed to stay in Britain. So there are quite a few cases who turn out not to be illegal immigrants.
This is really the only area of British law where people can be arrested without warrant on the orders of a civil servant, be detained in prison without charge, without ever having been taken before a court, and with no right of appeal in this country. Detention without trial is nothing to do with a hard or soft line on immigration in general. It's a quite separate subject. It's to do with civil liberties, it's to do with civil rights. And I think that what's most disturbing about it is that there is some public concern about people being detained for periods of up to 5 days under the Prevention of Terrorism Act and the sort of threat to civil liberty that that involves. Now here we have the only area of British law where people can be detained indefinitely without warrant, without charge, and without right of appeal. That is a disgraceful situation which just must be changed, and quickly.
In fact, between 1976 and 77, the number of people detained more than doubled. So if anything, this situation is changing for the worse, with more people than ever being held for long periods under the Immigration Act.
Here at Harmondsworth Detention Centre near Heathrow Airport, unwelcome visitors to Britain get locked up. It's not just people who want to settle in Britain who can end up here, but also people who come simply to do business or to visit relatives, particularly if those people have brown faces.
I've got a brother who is here for last about 7 to 8 years. I'd never seen him. I left him as a baby over here. And there I am now over here. I just can't meet him. They have only one attitude. They're not interested in people coming over here, whether as a visitor or as an immigrant or as any damn thing. I've been here for bloody 15 days. Nobody has come to see me so far. Nobody. One person did come day before yesterday. But that is when I phoned him up to find out as to what's the fate of my case. The man says it's with Home Office, and he doesn't know the fate of it. But that is when I phoned him up to find out as to what's the fate of my case. The man says it's with Home Office, and he doesn't know the fate of it. But that is when I phoned him up to find out as to what's the fate of my case. The man says it's with Home Office, and he doesn't know the fate of it. So most of the people around over here have stayed more than a week over here. In fact, for myself, I have 15 days. This gentleman must be about 13 days. And there are people who have stayed for 2 months and 1 month. Everybody is depressed. You can see people crying around here. We had one person in the morning today, 2 of them rather. They were going to United States of America, coming from Saudi Arabia. They had a transit halt of about 18 hours, I think, over here. And they had hotel booking and everything. These people never allowed them to go to the hotel. They said this was the hotel, and when those poor chaps landed over here, they were shocked. They were just shocked, you see. They felt they were taking them to a hotel. They didn't know.
Many people still believe there's a need for more controls.
Well, I think it's got to be controlled, really.
Well, obviously now I think immigration should be slowed up.
They shouldn't let, so many in.
Because it is getting too much, isn't it?
Well, I think they should put a stop to it somewhere.
I mean, at the moment we're inundated.
I mean, we don't get the true figures from the government. They're not likely to tell you, are they?
People are often very suspicious of statistics about immigration.
There's often the feeling that facts and figures can be juggled to say exactly what you want to say with them.
The facts and figures in this programme come from a lot of different sources.
Such as government statistics,
Home Office surveys,
parliamentary reports,
and studies by other organisations like the Runnymede Trust.
If you don't believe them, try finding out for yourself.
Of course, facts and figures can be made to say different things.
For instance, when they're talking about immigration, most newspapers and TV programmes rely on one set of figures.
They're published by the Home Office, and according to these figures...
In 1978, 72,000 people came to settle in Britain.
Of which 29,000 were white.
They don't mention how many left.
But according to OPCS, the government's Statistical Department, who publish another set of figures...
In 1978, 187,000 people came to Britain as immigrants.
Of which 125,000 were white.
And in the same year, 192,000 people left Britain.
A net loss of 5,000 people.
The OPCS figures are not often published or broadcast. Maybe that's because they include many white immigrants from Ireland, the Common Market and elsewhere, who aren't counted in the Home Office statistics.
But whichever facts you choose, in the end, what's important is not the facts, but how you see them.
It's extraordinary, really, when you stand back from it, that here we are arguing about wives and children from the Indian subcontinent, whose number is almost certainly under 100,000, and talking about British citizens from East Africa, whose number is probably under 50,000, when we have a completely open door to white patrials from the Commonwealth, whose number is in the tens of millions, and to common market nationals whose numbers is in the 100 millions. And that may seem an unreal point when there isn't a great deal of economic incentive for people, those people in the latter categories to come here. But there is now higher unemployment in Canada than there is in the UK. And if we have an economic revival here, or if the common market is enlarged to include countries like Spain and Greece that have lower levels of wages and where therefore the incentive is greater, then that open door might become a reality. And when you look at that, you have to realise that our present debate about immigration is not a rational debate about what kind of numbers of people can come and work in this country at all. It has very little to do with that, and it has everything to do with race and colour.
So although I'm wrong statistically, don't bother me with facts. I prefer to call them immigrants when what I mean is blacks.
Of course, we can cut out immigration altogether if we really want to. All we have to do is...
Tear up the Treaty of Rome.
Which lets in people from the common market.
The 71 Immigration Act.
Which lets in patrials and dependents.
Our treaties with the Commonwealth.
Which let in the East African nations.
And the Human Rights Agreement.
Which say we should let in wives and children.
The law is as tight now as it ever can be without, and this is the important proviso, welching on the promises that this country has already made to numbers of people over the world. One can tighten up, but one can only tighten up at the expense of one's credibility as a nation. If one is saying British promises mean nothing, then you can welch on your commitments and you can tighten up your immigration law. If you're saying that Britain's name still counts for something in this world, that there is still such a thing as the British sense of fair play and justice, then there is no way you can tighten up the immigration laws any further.
When you get various parties vying for votes, people say all kinds of things. And I tend to wonder what they're talking about. They're talking about people, or they're talking about votes.
But I think the most damaging thing of all about the kind of debate that has gone on about immigration, for almost 15 years now, has been that it is founded on the assumption that is not spelled out, that the presence of black people, and it's almost always black people that are being talked about in immigration debate, not people from the common market or wherever else, are in some sense automatically undesirable. And that says not only to the people overseas who are seeking to come here, it says to black kids who are born and brought up in this country that their presence is in some undefined way a threat.
In fact, 4 out of 10 black people living in Britain were born here.
Can you call them immigrants?
Well, I'm British, but I don't think the British people themselves consider me as British. You know, seeing I'm black.
We're not accepted in this country as a British person. Even if we were born here, it doesn't make no difference. We're not accepted as a British person.
For instance, if somebody tells you to go back to your own country and you say to them that you're born here and you haven't been to another country before, how can you make your parents' home your home when you haven't been there, you haven't seen it?
Well, most of us would like to call ourselves British, but we can't, because we know we can say whatever we want to, but we're not going to be accepted because, you know, because of our colour.
It's not a matter of immigrants anymore. It's a matter of English men, English women, English boys and English girls who have been born here, who are English.
Living in the world today. Our people been here 25 years together, and we're here to stay. People, 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 our people, 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 our people. Together we're here, together we're here, together we're here to stay.
That's all from our school's programmes for today until 9:30 tomorrow morning. In just over 10 minutes at 12:10, Bungle, George and Zippy learn how to make all kinds of different sounds in today's edition of Rainbow, followed at 12:30 by About Britain, which takes a look at the new agricultural revolution and its effect on the countryside. The news is at 1, followed by the Anglia news and weather, and then at 1:30 we have the final day in this week's case from the Crown Court. All this to come after the first of our lunchtime programmes, when we join the Munch Bunch.
Meet the Munch Bunch. Enough corn is enough.
The Munch Bunch have run away. The Munch Bunch are here to stay. The Munch Bunch have found a home with a garden. Lizzie, pepper, pear, having fun without a care. Spider, Casper, carrot, ollie, onion too. The Munch Bunch have run away. The Munch Bunch are here to stay. The Munch Bunch have found a home with a garden. The Munch Bunch have set the